Morning. Have you ever thought about becoming a foster carer? What's involved? There are many children and young people who are unable to live safely with their birth family due to domestic violence, mental health and drug and alcohol misuse by their family members. And foster care provides a safe, stable home environment for these kids and young people until they can be reunited with their family. Sometimes things don't work out and the child may remain in foster care. But it is such an important part of our community support network. Melissa Bell is the General Manager of ACT Together, a consortium of care-based organisations created to provide support and care for Canberra kids in out-of-home care. She joins me now in the studio, along with a foster carer, Michelle, on the phone. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Liz. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Now, how many foster carers are there in the ACT, Melissa?
So we have almost 300 foster carers with ACT Together, which is amazing, an amazing resource to kids in the ACT. But we always need more care options for the kids that we have referred to us.
And of those 300 foster parents, how many more could you do? How many kids have you got in care that need families?
So we've got a campaign, Local Kids, Local Needs, this year with ACT Together. We're trying to recruit 100 new carers, which is a big goal, but we're really hopeful that we can speak to the community about what Canberra kids need when they can't, as you say, stay with their birth families.
What do Canberra kids need? What is required out there?
Well, these kids need stable and safe care while they can't live with their parents, and whilst a decision is made about what the long-term options are. And they need what all kids need, which is obviously, a home, a carer to provide for those very, basic day-to-day needs, but also the important stuff around culture and identity and, developing those children to their full potential, whether that be in a crisis care or short-term situation or for the long term.
Michelle, when did you become a foster carer?
About 8 or 9 years ago now. So we first started looking into it about a year before we came to foster carers, and thought this would be a nice thing to do. We actually started with long-term care, so what is called concurrency care, and that's where you take on a child or children, and they're short-term carers, but you will eventually become their long-term carers if they cannot return to their birth family. And so we started with that, and then we recently, in the past few years, started looking into helping out in a crisis care capacity and also respite. And so we've looked after a number of children in that way as well.
So, Melissa, there's so many different types of foster care, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Can you explain those to us?
Yeah, so Michelle was referring to long-term care where they started their caring journey. So, as you said earlier, sometimes there are kids who it's assessed it's not safe for them to live with their parents, or there is no available kinship care in the family network, and so that's when long-term care, and often with a view to permanency, such as guardianship or adoption, comes into play. We also have obviously more short-term crisis kind of arrangements whilst a situation's assessed as to what should happen for the child. And then Michelle also referred to respite. Respite is where carers provide care, normally about one weekend a month, to support another set of carers and to provide another positive adult input into the life of a child or children.
Michelle, why did you become a carer? You said it was a good thing to do, but the motivation for many of us who've probably thought, oh yeah, I could be a carer, I've got time in my life, and listening to that lovely ad from ACT Together earlier, which is saying, entitled We're Not Amazing, what really pushed you to become a carer?
So I'm part of a same-sex couple, and when we first started talking about having children, I thought, well, this is not going to be as easy as it is for other couples perhaps, and I sort of thought, well, hang on, let's have a look at different options. The more we researched foster care, the more we realised there was a really great need in the ACT, and then it became less about growing the family and more about, well, how can we actually help out? And so we actually started researching it and thought, well, this could be a really nice way to help out but also have children in our lives we certainly weren't necessarily thinking at the time that this would result in an automatic family. You know, it was more about what can we do to help children that are in need. And we have had quite a few children that have, returned to birth family with the kinship options, as Melissa said.
I might just get you to move over to the window and stand on one leg, Michelle, because we seem to be losing a bit of connection.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. And what's it brought to your family, to you and your partner?
Oh, it's been such a blessing. It's changed us fundamentally in terms of what we believe, what we understand about vulnerable children and how we can assist. It's also added a lot of fun to our lives. We've had weekends where we've just had so much fun, and the schooling and everything. It's been amazing, just like any parenting journey is. It's been a real blessing, and the short-term care is also a blessing because you can see the transitions that children make really rapidly, and it's just amazing when you see a child come into your care, and then over that time you can see the changes that they're making due to the stable home and so on, and it's really a blessing.
And the challenges, of course, there are lots of challenges with this as well, like any parenting.
Yeah, of course, and I mean, it's not easy for the children to be uprooted from one home and taken into another home, but over time you can make them feel comfortable and make them feel secure, and we've seen some real transitions, and we've had certainly a lot of children that have just been really happy to meet new families, and then other children who have had a bit more of an adjustment period.
My guest this morning on ABC Radio Canberra, Melissa Bell, General Manager of Act Together, and Michelle, a foster carer. And Act Together are looking for carers for babies, sibling groups, as well as teens who need assistance in navigating their way into adulthood. Paul's texted in on 0467 922 666 saying, I wonder if we should be a bit more careful around language. You mentioned not going back to birth parents as not working out, but perhaps a long-term loving carer and stability actually is working out. Thanks for your text, Paul. How do you respond to that, Melissa? Is it thought of a long-term solution to be with carers?
Certainly. I mean, for every child or young person who comes into care and is removed from the care of their parents, the first goal must always be a restoration where that's safe and in the child's best interest. But certainly where that's not the case, absolutely stable long-term care and permanency is what children need.
So what do you look for in a foster family, and what sort of training's involved and vetting as well, very important?
Sure. So we offer a comprehensive program of training and assessment of carers. So we offer a trauma-based training module across 3 weekends for foster carers, and then there's an assessment process that goes alongside that looks at the motivation and the capabilities of people who are putting themselves forward for care, and also helps them to understand the needs of the particular children we're talking about who've experienced trauma. Caring isn't like normal parenting in all ways. In some ways it is, but you need to understand the experiences of the children and be able to parent with that at the centre of your interactions with them.
And then, so after that 3 weeks, is there more ongoing training? I understand you've just had an intake, but it's a long-term thing, isn't it? The training is not just 3 weeks.
No, absolutely not. So we offer regular training through Act Together, particularly with our team who have the role of supporting carers, and the Australian Childhood Foundation who are our therapeutic arm at Act Together support us in that training journey with our carers. We have lots of different training on offer, and we ask carers what they want and regularly get their views about the type of training they need.
And Michelle, do you feel supported by that training and then also the backup? Because obviously it's as Melissa says, it's a different environment to regular parenting in many ways.
Yes, absolutely. Look, I mean, apart from the training, you also have regular sort of foster carer networks, coffee meetings and so on that, we can exchange ideas. And then we also have a care team, and the care team's the greatest thing. I often joke that every parent needs a care team, and the care team has, you know, your caseworker, you've got a support worker, and so on, you know, and so lots of different people helping you if you have a tricky decision to make for a child. It's not just you and perhaps your partner if you're not single or you know, actually working together. So you're all in a group discussing the pros and cons and how to make this decision, rather than it being you know, just one or two people sort of saying, is this the right thing for this child? So I often joke about that, but it has been very beneficial. And the training is really useful, and I've learned so much about children's development through that training. So,
and for anyone thinking of being a foster carer, just floating around in their eyes, in their minds, maybe for years, what would you say to them?
So I would, sorry.
We'll ask Michelle first, then Melissa.
Sure.
Okay. I would definitely say look into it and talk to Act Together. Have a chat about what you can do and what you would need support in, because there's so many different models of care that there's something for everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us, Michelle. And Melissa, carers can be single, partnered, gay, married, all types of carers are needed. What would you say if people are thinking about it?
Absolutely. We want to talk to all type of people who are interested in caring or just thinking about it, as you say, and Michelle said. So you can call us on 1300 We Foster, or find Act Together on Facebook or at acttogether.org.au.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming in this morning. And thank you, Michelle. Melissa Bell from Act Together and Michelle, a foster carer.